Hello and welcome to iHeart Cooking. I am registered dietitian Jennifer Stachler.
And I'm Chef Dugan Wetzel.
We are both from Reid Hospital. Today's program is brought to you by a grant from the American Heart Association. It is also brought to you by Reid Hospital, WCTV, and RPNL. Our live audience today is joining us from the YMCA. Today on iHeart Cooking, we're going to be making healthy appetizers. Get started making healthy appetizers, and the first appetizer we're going to get started with is an apricot dip. This is a fruit dip that pairs good with a lot of different fruits and also is great with a lot of appetizers, since typically a lot of appetizers don't have a lot of fruit in them. So Dugan over here is going to get started with actually making this dip. It's something that actually is going to have to simmer for quite a bit, so we're going to get started with this one, then come back to it at the end.
Okay, the first thing we're going to do is add 2 cups of orange juice and a cup of diced dried apricots. What we're going to do here is wait for the orange juice to kind of boil, get it up to temperature. The reason we're boiling it is we're going to reconstitute some of that liquid into the apricots. They're a dried apricot, so they're really chewy, really firm. So by adding that orange juice back into them, they'll give them that nice soft texture. Because what you're going to see after about 20 minutes, we're going to kind of mash it down to make it into a jam. And we want the liquid back in there to just make that step a little easier. So, yeah. Okay.
You'll probably want to have that dish on maybe medium-high heat, get it start simmering to get it to that boil. And that's something else that, like I said, it's going to take about 20 minutes for it to probably simmer and get ready, and then you add the rest of the ingredients that we have. So while this is getting ready to go to simmer and Dugan's kind of stirring it, a little bit of nutrition about the apricot dip. Because it has the apricots and it has that orange juice in there, great source of vitamins, especially that vitamin C. Being that it's dried apricots, if we think about a serving of dried fruits, it's only about 1/4 of a cup. So not that much, because they kind of shrink down when they're dried. And that's something also to remember. You're going to be pairing this with other fruits because it is going to be a fruit dip.
So while we're getting ready to boil here, do you want to go ahead and start with the mushroom?
Yeah. The next thing we're going to get started with is a crumb-crusted mushroom with a slice of lemon that's also added to that. So Dugan's going to get here quickly and start with the mushrooms.
Yeah. Okay. The mushrooms that you're going to be using are a white button mushroom. You can find them in any store. I'd say about 1 package would do you good. What we do, we'll take them out of the package, run them under water, get all the dirt and the grime off of them. Then you're going to put them on paper towels or napkins to kind of dry them off, bat them dry. What you're going to do after that is you're simply going to just take the mushrooms and just pop the stems off. The easiest way I found to do it is to just apply a little pressure and it'll just slide right out. Very, very simple, very easy. And you're going to do that for the whole container. While we're doing that, we'll go real quick here.
One other thing while he's kind of getting some of those stems off, when you go to the grocery store, you're actually going to see different sizes. So that's something that you want to see how much or how big of mushroom you want. These are one of the smaller ones that for the button mushrooms. There are larger ones on top of that, but it kind of depends on how big you want the serving. For being an appetizer, I try to stick with one of the smaller ones if you can.
So once we have all the stems off, we're going to add just a little bit of fat-free plain yogurt. You don't want to add a yogurt that has flavor to it, because you'll see with the rest of the ingredients, that's where your flavor is going to be. And having something like a vanilla yogurt, it's going to impart kind of a different flavor that's not going to mesh really well with the other seasonings and spices that we're going to have. So when you're looking for a yogurt, look for a fat-free plain yogurt.
And that's something as well for many of you out in the audience and at home. It's really hard to find a regular yogurt, I should say, versus like Greek yogurt that's plain. So the one that I have here is actually a Greek yogurt because it's hard to find other yogurt that's just plain flavor. You're going to find that they're usually vanilla or some other types of flavor. You can buy the larger containers of regular yogurts. That's not Greek. That is going to be plain, but for this, you just probably want a little serving of it. So Greek yogurt works just as well.
Okay, so now that we've kind of blended the mushrooms and the yogurt together, we're going to go ahead and start our herb blend, our crust. First thing we're going to do is take just a small amount of margarine, maybe 2 teaspoons max. We're going to put it in our pan here and kind of let that melt down.
And you can put this probably on medium high heat to start getting that melted as well.
Yeah. Okay. Once the butter's melted, what you're going to do is you're going to add the breadcrumbs. What they're looking for in this recipe is something with low sodium. Kind of difficult to find that in a store, a plain breadcrumb with low sodium. An easy way to do that at home is to use bread. You can cube it up, kind of bake it off until you get the croutons, the plain croutons. And then what I did with this, I just put it in a bag, like a regular Ziploc bag, and just kind of crumbled it with my hands until I got this mixture here. Really simple, really easy, won't take much time at all. And you can actually keep it in the bag and it'll hold for you if you want to do that maybe a day or two in advance. So while this butter's melting, we're almost there. Actually, let's go ahead and do that. We're going to add our breadcrumbs in here and the rest of our seasonings. The seasonings that we're going to add, we're going to do an Italian seasoning blend. This is why I said don't use the vanilla yogurt, because the vanilla yogurt and the Italian seasoning just don't pair very well. Going to do a lemon pepper.
And if you do a lemon pepper, try to choose a sodium-free lemon pepper because some of that adds extra sodium into the product. Being more heart healthy, we want to try to get as much sodium out of the product as possible.
Mm-hmm. And a little bit of minced garlic. So the reason that we're doing this step, as far as toasting the breadcrumbs and everything, you want to add more flavor to the mushroom. You could do it without this step, but it kind of roasts everything, gives it kind of a nice aroma, and it's just, flavor's important. When you're not doing salt or anything like that, you want to get as much flavor from your herbs and your spices as you can. And this is just an easy step in doing that. So 2-3 minutes tops. It won't take very long. You're just kind of toasting it. Since it's all very small, the breadcrumbs are tiny, they're going to brown really quick. So it won't be much longer here, and we'll be ready to go.
So Dugan kind of was explaining that whole breadcrumb process, and I know we've kind of mentioned breadcrumbs and how to make them homemade at home as well. That's one thing that be very careful, because I think I mentioned this in the last episode that I made breadcrumbs once, and you tend to broil them, kind of forgot about them, and started the oven on fire. Yes, this happened during college when I was going through getting my bachelor's degree, but that's something you don't want to happen. So make sure you keep an eye out for your breadcrumbs, and you don't want them to be burnt black.
Okay. So while that's toasting, we're going to come over here and look at our apricots. And we're actually starting to boil now.
Yep.
So we're going to turn the heat down. We just want it to be simmer, so you're probably looking at a medium heat, medium low, just small bubbles. That's all you're looking for.
I say for viewers at home, that smell of the orange juice and apricots, I don't know, a lot of our live audience might be able to smell that right now. Great smell to have, especially if you're making this. People walk into your house, they're going to smell that. You guys smell it?
Okay, so now our breadcrumbs are pretty well and toasted. What we're going to do next is we get our sheet pan out. I put parchment on the bottom of it to kind of help with the sticking, so that everything, once it's baked, it's easy to come off of the parchment paper. You can put it on a platter and serve it. So what I do first thing is I'll let the breadcrumbs cool just a little bit, and then I'll just kind of lightly dust the bottom. Because we're using the whole button mushroom, they're not completely round. So they're not going to move around on you very much. like when you're trying to toss them in breadcrumbs. So they're going to lay flat. So you want to have something on the bottom so that the bottom part where the stem was, it has some breading on it as well. So we're good there. Go ahead and start placing our mushrooms here. As you can see, you want to coat them pretty well in the yogurt. That helps that breadcrumb mixture adhere just directly onto there, so you don't have to worry. I just go ahead and do the bottom side down. Real simple. Takes no time at all.
And Dugan is, like he said, using the parchment paper, but if you don't have parchment paper at home, you can easily put a little cooking spray on there so the mushrooms don't stick to the bottom of your pan.
I'm going to change my gloves here real quick. So now that we have the mushrooms on the pan, we're going to just go ahead and take the rest of our breadcrumb mixture and just kind of drizzle it over the top.
And you're going to see it sticking right to that yogurt.
And you're going to have a little more breadcrumbs than you will mushrooms, so don't be discouraged. You can kind of move them around here on the pan itself to kind of coat the sides. How do we look over there?
Say our apricot dip's looking pretty good. It's about there. It's just at a simmer. You can see the apricots actually plumping up in there, so we're going to be about ready to do this once we pop these in the oven.
Okay. Okay, so now that our mushrooms are ready, we've got our oven already preheated to 450 degrees. What we're going to do is just move them over, and it'll take about 20 minutes for them to be done. So. Okay, so we're back. While we were on break, we had a good question from the audience. A gentleman asked, is there a certain place in the oven where you should place the mushrooms? Typically, the answer I would say is you'd probably want it towards the bottom of the oven. Just because you're using small breadcrumbs, they're going to burn a little quicker if you put them towards the top where that heat source is. So if you put them in the middle or towards the bottom, that's probably going to be a good spot for them. Okay. So now we're working on our apricot dip. We're still kind of simmering. There's a little bit of juice left, but you can tell the apricots are kind of plumping up. They're absorbing some of that orange juice. So what we're going to do is, while we're still waiting, is take a flat spoon and mashing the apricots down, getting kind of the insides out to add a little bit more flavor, a little bit more of the apricot juice to it. So. Another thing that you can use if you don't want to use the back of the spoon, I know some of them aren't very durable, so they kind of bend on you. Once it's done and completely absorbed, we're going to transfer this to a bowl. One thing that you can use is like the bottom of a measuring cup. Just kind of press down on it because it's got a nice flat round surface, and you'll get a lot of surface area flattened with that. So. All right, so now that all the orange juice is absorbed into the apricots, we're going to go ahead and transfer it to a bowl here. So while we've got it here, you're just going to go through one more time real quick and kind of smash the apricots down. Get as much of that juice out as possible. You're fine. Move that. And once you're at a good point where you feel like you've got as much as you can out of the apricots, we're going to go ahead and add our spices to it. Jennifer's got them here. We're going to put a little bit of cinnamon and a little bit of nutmeg in it. Give you kind of the holiday flavors, and it'll Here we go. Give you a nice heat. Nothing overpowering, but it'll taste just like the holidays. So.
And one nice thing about nutmeg, cinnamon, no calories, no carbohydrates. It just gives you the flavor without adding extra sodium, anything like that. So very, very good spices to add with this. And again, like Dugan kind of said, it makes you think of the holidays. I know we just got done having them last month, but even good for coming up for Valentine's Day would be a great dish to add on there.
Now that all our spices are added, we're going to go ahead and finish it off with our unsweetened applesauce. You can find this at any store. Very simple ingredients. Just apples, a tiny bit of salt, and some water. That's as easy as it's going to get. But it's going to kind of give it a little bit of depth. That's what it's really going to bring to this recipe. Kind of combines everything together. And you really don't need a lot of seasoned applesauce because you're already using the cinnamon and the nutmeg. You're going to have the apricot flavor. So we're stirring it. Since we're incorporated now, what we're going to do is go ahead and put it in the refrigerator. You want this to be cold because our last step is to add yogurt. And if you add the yogurt to this while it's still hot, it's going to separate. It's not going to combine really well. So you want this to be completely cold. Maybe an hour, 2 hours in the refrigerator. Pull it out, kind of test it, see if it's cold. If it's a little warm, go ahead and put it back in. But once it is, then we're going to go ahead and add our yogurt to it. So
now since that dip has been cooling in the fridge for about an hour, we're going to take it out and we're going to add some of this yogurt in here. One thing about this yogurt, this is unlike the other recipe where we used regular plain yogurt and Greek yogurt. This is actually going to be vanilla flavored yogurt because with this dish, being that it's fruit, it pairs very well having that vanilla flavor to that. So that's something that now this is cooled, we're going to add that vanilla yogurt.
Simply going to just kind of toss, incorporate it, coat it. Okay, so now that our yogurt's incorporated and it's cold, we're ready to serve.
And that's something our audience, we're going to actually have them try this, and they're going to be having apples to actually dip it with. So on top of having the apricots and the applesauce, which are fruit, again, we're going to be adding some apples, good source of vitamin C, good source of fiber. So we're just going to cut these up and have them try it. While I'm cutting this apple up, some other fruits that would be also pair well with the apricot dip would be pears, would be strawberries, grapes, any of those kind of harder ones, and something you can actually get some of the dip on would be great with this dip.
Okay, so it's been 20 minutes, so we're going to go ahead and take our mushrooms out. As you can see, they're going to be nice and lightly toasted on the top. We're going to go ahead and sit them over here, and we're just going to finish them off. All we're going to do is we're going to zest lemon. There's a lot of flavor in the peels of the lemons. You don't need very much, just over the top. And a little bit of paprika. You can go ahead and add this to the breadcrumbs if you'd like, if you want the smoky paprika flavor, or you can just leave it out and dust it so it gives it a nice burnt red color. And again, we're ready to serve.
And that's something, talking about a little bit more nutrition for mushrooms. They're really good in selenium, B vitamins, vitamin D. They do have some potassium in there as well. One other nice thing is they're very low in calories, very low in fat, gluten-free. So that's something that it's a great heart-healthy choice, low in cholesterol. So great appetizer to have here, very low in sodium and all the rest of those things. So it's something that if you have this as an appetizer and you get to the rest of your meal, it's not going to take away from the rest of the meal, adding other nutrients and calories.
If you don't have a zester at home, like we've said on previous shows, you can use the cheese graters. The four-sided cheese graters, typically they have a zester side with 2 different thicknesses. That would work just as well as if you don't want to go buy just a zester just for that, you can use a simple cheese grater that you probably have in your closet somewhere.
So for our live audience, one of them we're going to be walking away with this new American Heart Association cookbook that we get all of our recipes out of. So that's something that, because we're received a grant from the American Heart Association, we're going to give this and a bunch of other handouts as well to our viewers that are here watching us live. So somebody gets to walk away with this lovely cookbook. Thank you for tuning into iHeart Cooking, a program that is funded by the American Heart Association. We hope you enjoyed all the recipes and information that we provided today and that you'll try them at home.
For more heart-healthy recipes, you can visit the American Heart Association's website at heart.org or Reid Hospital's website at reidhospital.org/iHeartCooking.
We'll see you next month.